Hi, I'm Ryan Lowe and welcome to Ryan Loves Golf. Please join me as I interview interesting people from all corners of the golf industry. My guest today is Jason Yao. Jason is an attorney that specializes in IP protection, and for the last 15 years, he has been on the front lines in the fight against the production and the distribution of counterfeit golf equipment. If you're a golfer, or if you're a business person looking to protect your brand in China, I believe you'll find today's interview to be extremely interesting. Hey, Jason,
Hey Ryan,
how are you?
I'm good. Can you hear me?
I can hear you just fine. Yeah. Right. Well, yeah, thanks for
So,
joining us today. Where are you calling us from?
uh, from my office in Hong Kong.
Okay. Now, are you based in Hong Kong now? You used to be in Shenzhen.
Yeah, I'm working out of our Shenzhen and Hong Kong offices. Yeah, given the pandemic, I cannot go to Shenzhen on a regular basis. So most of the time, I will just be in the Hong Kong office.
Uh-huh. Yeah, it's a crazy world right now. Now, Jason, I've
Yeah,
known you for, close to 15 years now. We used to work together at a Cushnet China. Our offices used to be right next to each other's. But,
right.
for our audience, could you give everyone a brief background, introduction of yourself?
Sure. Yeah. My name is Jason Yao. I'm a partner at Wang Huida Law Firm. Wang Huida is one of the leading IP firm in China, with over 450 associates working in 10 offices in China.
Mhm.
So I've been managing the three offices of the firm, Guangzhou, Shenzhen, and Hong Kong. So obviously, I've been in Hong Kong for almost half a year.
Uh-huh.
Um, I cannot go across the border to Shenzhen or Guangzhou anymore.
Yeah. Yeah. When do you think that's gonna become normal again? When can people start traveling and not have to do the quarantines again?
We are hoping that the next month the quarantine measure will be lifted, but we don't know. It was supposed to be this month, but it was extended for one more month.
Mhm. Yeah. Well, again, thank you for joining us. I think, for you to be able to talk to us, you'd give us a really interesting, behind the scenes view of what goes on in the counterfeit golf equipment industry. Now, you've been part of the golf industry for a long time now. How did you get into the golf industry?
Right, it's actually very interesting. In 2005, when Titleist, a Cushioner company, was looking for a Asia Pacific legal counsel, I got a call from the headhunter. And at that time, I only played a few times of golf, not very good, but I thought it's very interesting. I always like sports, so I applied the job and got the job. And at that time, counterfeiting is still a very big problem for the golf industry. And that's when exactly when the U.S. golf manufacturer and the counterfeit working group just started. So I was the first one located in Asia, being representing the golf group, working on fighting counterfeits in China, Thailand, and the other countries in the Asia Pacific region.
Uh-huh. Now, part of that working group, who is in, which brands are represented in that group?
Right now, the group consists of six largest golf equipment manufacturer in the world, including Acushnet Titleist, Callaway, TaylorMade, Ping, PXG, and SRI, Srixon, Cleveland Golf.
Mhm. Now, how do all these guys work together? I mean, back during my Titleist days, obviously all of these names, they're competitors and we're quite competitive. How is the atmosphere when all of you guys get together to fight counterfeiting? Does it ever get awkward or is it a very cooperative atmosphere?
Right, exactly. Those are competitors in the industry. They have been working against each other in the market, I guess.
Yeah.
But in terms of fighting counterfeits, they have been working together very closely and very cooperatively.
Uh-huh.
Uh, but antitrust is a very sensitive issue, so they take it very seriously. Every time they will have an antitrust lawyer sitting in a meeting or attending our conference call. We'll have a monthly conference call every month, and we'll have a face-to-face meeting twice a year. So every time the antitrust council will be sitting in those meetings, make sure we only talk about fighting counterfeits.
Yeah, yeah, I'm sure there's a lot of information that couldn't be shared in that environment. So you've been working.
But it has been very, very useful, very helpful way to work together. I mean, the competitors in the same industry working together, fighting counterfeits, because in that way, you can actually share a lot of information, also share the resources when you fight counterfeits. Because for the counterfeiters, they don't care which brand they are dealing with. They only deal with the most popular brands in the market. So maybe this week they will do Callaway, next week they will do TaylorMade, and then the week after they will do Titleist. Yeah, so if you work together, you don't care what they are doing right now. Just go inside and read it and take everything out. So it's actually much easier and more effective when you work together with your competitors.
Yeah, yeah. So you've been working with this group for a while now. What have you accomplished through this group?
Yeah, it has been a lot. In 2005, we only do maybe 2 or 3 raids a year. But after that, we just increased our enforcement efforts in China, in Thailand, and in the US as well, year by year. We have been doing a lot of raid actions on a yearly basis right now. Yeah, and in terms of the retail channel, if you go to the golf shops next to the golf courses in China, you don't see many counterfeits anymore.
Right.
So 10 years ago, if you go to a golf course, you will see 10, 20 golf shops around the golf course, and most of them are selling counterfeits. Yeah. But that's not the case anymore.
Yeah.
And most of the shops, they actually switched to genuine products. They are authorized retailers of those brands now, and which is a good result.
Yeah, I remember first getting to China in 2006 and seeing those shops, like an entire street, and they're all selling counterfeit golf equipment. And the owners of the shop, they just come straight up and tell you, oh yeah, these are fake. I mean, they don't even try to pass them off as being real.
Yeah. Yeah, now they still carry some counterfeits, but if you just go inside as a regular customer, they won't sell you any counterfeits because they don't know if you are an investigator or not. We hire a lot of private investigators. They go to those shops on a regular basis to make sure they are not selling counterfeits. Yeah. So yeah, they will only sell you counterfeits when they know you.
Yeah, that's an interesting dynamic. Now, how big would you say is the counterfeit golf equipment market? How big is that industry?
Well, it's very hard to tell you exactly how big the market is, but our estimate that it would be over $1 or $2 billion globally.
Seriously?
Maybe bigger than that.
Holy cow!
There's one estimate made by the Golf magazine. It was $6 billion, but I don't think that it's that big. But nobody knows how exactly the market is because it's all underground.
Value?
Yeah, it's a retail value. Yeah, but it's huge. There are a lot of travelers coming to China. I mean, before the pandemic. Yeah. A lot of pilots, a lot of tourist groups, and they will come to the golf shops and buy 10, 20, 30 sets of golf clubs and carry them home. So it can be potentially a big market.
Yeah. Now, when you go and raid these factories, how sophisticated are these operations? I mean, how do they go about making these copies? Do they use traditional tooling? Is it 3D scans of the actual real product that they do?
No, you'll be surprised when you go to those operations. It's very simple. Mostly just very, very simple tools. It may be complicated to make the heads, but when they made the heads and when they assemble the products, they put everything together. It's just a very shabby, low quality tools that they have been using. So there's no way you can tell it's a 10-degree or 12-degree driver, even though they tell you it's 10.5, but it can be 12.5 or 8.5.
Yeah, but it seemed like, when I first got to China, all of these, you could tell right away that, a counterfeit was a counterfeit. Then it started getting a little bit better, a little bit better, a little bit better. It seemed like they
Right.
do pay more attention to the details nowadays.
Yeah, cosmetically, yes. They have made a big improvement in terms of the look of the product,
Uh-huh.
but not necessarily the quality.
Now, you talk about these raids that you perform with the anti-counterfeiting group.
Right.
How much time goes into conducting and preparing for one of these raids?
Yeah, it used to be quite easy, when you find a retailer selling counterfeits. So you will set up surveillance on the retailer and then to find out the wholesaler and then the manufacturer. So it's relatively easy to find them out. But now it's not the case anymore because everything goes to online.
Okay.
Yeah, you find a lot of online sellers, but when you
Sure.
contact them or you place a trial order with them and you receive the products and there's nothing useful for you to trace back the seller and not mentioning the manufacturer because everything on the package is false information. The telephone number, the name, and the address, they're all falsified information.
Right.
Yeah,
Yeah,
so it's getting more and more difficult to find out where they are and where they make the products.
Sure. I was wondering if it's like you see in the movies where you have to, hide in a van and talk really quietly and, spy on people as they go in and out the factories.
Yeah, sometimes we have, our investigators have to do that.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, they will be hiding on the top of the building the whole night. And because most of the operations, especially the essential operations like the assembling place, they only operate at night.
Okay.
Yeah, so when you do surveillance, you have to be there the whole night and to find out what they are doing and where they will transport the products to and where they keep the products.
Right. Now, as you go on these raids, what are some of the most popular brands that you're seeing that are being copied right now?
The most popular ones in the market. So no matter which one is popular in the market, the genuine products, and you will find them in the counterfeiting operation. So people say that counterfeiting is a complement to the genuine brands. You got copied only because you are popular in the market.
Yeah. I remember when I first moved to China, this was 2006, the GM of Fusheng, he was only half joking with me. He said, well, it should worry you if your products are not counterfeited, which might mean there's no, market demand for it.
Right, exactly. Yeah, for example, PXG is a newly joined member of the group. And in the beginning, in every raid, we found very limited number of counterfeit PXG products. But we are seeing more and more. It means they are getting better in the market. And that's why we are seeing more counterfeits.
Now, what about golf balls? I would think that would be very easy to make one because it's, nobody knows what's on the inside and you just paint it white and you write Pro V1 on it and pass it off as a real.
Right. It may be easy to make counterfeit balls, but you know what? Golfers are paying more attention on what kind of balls they use. So especially like Pro V1, only the better golfers will use Pro V1. So when they buy Pro V1s, they pay higher attention. So it's less likely actually to have a counterfeit Pro V1 other than the golf clubs. because a lot of amateur golfers, especially for beginners, they don't really care what they use, or they
Right.
cannot tell the difference
Yeah.
when they are not good enough.
Yeah.
But golf ball is a little different.
Sure.
Yeah, because in terms of quality, the golf balls are much worse than the clubs.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Now, when you go on these raids, and obviously you probably go with the local law enforcement to raid these factories and warehouses, what's the normal punishment for these people?
Right. It can be criminal or administrative. If it's a very small operation or just a small retailer, we'll go with we call it administrative enforcement agency. So the penalty would be confiscation of the products and the administrative injunction order and fines,
Hmm.
monitoring fines. But if it's a larger operation, especially a assembler, wholesaler, or manufacturer, most likely going to be criminal prosecution. And the penalty would be criminal fines, confiscation, and jail term. For example, last year, we raided a very big online seller, and we had arrested 7 individuals, and 2 of them were put in jail for over 4 years,
Oh, wow.
and 3 others were put in jail for 1 to 3 years.
Okay.
It can be very serious.
It is. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a lot of time right there. Now, speaking of these people that are part of the manufacturing and the sales of these counterfeit products, I mean, how many these people have, legitimate factory experience? What I mean is, did some of these guys, did they spend time working, in a factory making just normal standard golf clubs? And then they went off and started their own business to make the counterfeit stuff.
Yeah, most of them they do actually, especially
Mm.
for the club manufacturers.
Yeah.
Many of the technicians in those operations, they had been working in legitimate manufacturers,
Hmm.
or maybe they work in a legitimate factory during the week, on the weekend, or in the evening. They will be working in an underground factory.
Uh-huh. Now,
And a lot of times, some of the technicians will have close relationship with the technicians working in the legitimate factories, so they get
sure.
the most updated information from those
Yeah.
factories.
Yeah. Yeah. That's obviously that's something that we dealt with a lot. You have, you also have the products that are obviously counterfeit, and then sometimes you can deal with stuff leaking out of the factories as well. So it's a
Right.
constant battle.
Yeah, that happens to some of the manufacturers. The workers in those factories, they steal products, or they don't dispose the wasted products
Hmm.
very well, so the
Hmm.
product will be leaked to those counterfeiters.
Hmm. Hmm. Now you've been, on the front lines of this fight for many years now. I mean, are you seeing a reduction in, the total amount of counterfeit products that are being made and sold right now?
Yeah, it's quite obvious to us. In
Yeah.
the beginning, you see counterfeits everywhere. Even in some of the very high-end hotels, in the lobbies, you can see
Yeah.
counterfeit golf clubs. But that's not the case anymore. Most of the golf shops, they carry genuine products now.
Uh-huh.
Uh, and most of the counterfeits, they go to online.
Hmm.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
we see it's a big improvement.
Hmm. Hmm. So would you say, their primary distribution channels now are just online and through WeChat and stuff like that, instead of the traditional
Yeah,
brick and mortar
WeChat,
stores?
Taobao, or Alibaba, yeah,
Mm.
online platforms. It's much easier for counterfeiters uh, to avoid being raided.
Mm.
That's why
Now,
we change our strategy as well. Right now, we work with the police to go after those online sellers, because the police have access to the online transaction records.
mm,
And it's also easier for the police to find out who have been making big purchases from those online sellers. And then
hmm.
they will go after them criminally. We just did a raid last month. You may have seen my post on
Yeah,
LinkedIn.
sure.
Yeah, it's a very
Hmm.
huge operation. The
Hmm.
police raided 10 operations simultaneously
Hmm.
and arrested 15 individuals.
Hmm.
And we found those sellers from online monitoring.
Hmm.
And then we were able to trace back the warehouse, the assembling place, and the manufacturers.
Yeah. Well, it's good to see that the Chinese government is taking this very seriously as well.
Right, because the golf industry has been sourcing products from China. So
Hmm.
the genuine products are also made in China. So the government has a legitimate reason to protect the golf industry.
Hmm. Now, do you foresee in the near future, because now some of these foundries, they're moving out of China and, into Vietnam.
Right.
Do you foresee some of this counterfeit production slowly moving into Vietnam?
Yeah, it's already the trend. We
Mm-hmm.
have seen counterfeit manufacturers moving from China to countries like Vietnam.
Mm-hmm.
We have seen counterfeit manufacturers of bags, clothes, and other accessories in the Southeast Asian countries like Cambodia,
Wow.
Thailand, Indonesia, and now we are seeing counterfeit club manufacturers moving to Vietnam and other countries in Southeast Asia.
Wow.
Yeah, that's obviously a very clear trend for the golf industry.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So, obviously, for these larger brands, multinational corporations, when they go into China, they might have their, own in-house counsel. They might have their own legal departments. But, what if I was just, a small company,
Right.
with only a few products? How would I approach the China market and protect, my brand and my IP in the market?
Right. Yeah, I think there are two recommendations from me. One is work with your competitors,
Mm,
just like the golf industry. What they have been doing in China has been very, very effective and very cost effective as well.
mhm,
They don't have a big budget every year, but when they put the resources together, it can make a big change.
mhm,
So for smaller industries or smaller brands, they should really work with their competitors and
mhm,
put their resources together. So
mhm.
the second recommendation would be that find a good local counsel. That's also a very important way. There are many lawyers and investigation firms in China. Some are good, some are not so good. So make sure you find the good ones to work for you.
Mhm, mhm. I'll just tell them to come find you, Jason.
That'd be nice.
Yeah. Now, um, you're a golfer. I mean, we've played a bunch of times, and as a golfer, where do you see the game of golf? This sport in mainland China going in the next, 3 to 5 years. Do you see growth?
Uh, Absolutely. I think the golf industry in China has hit the bottom already.
Hmm.
Maybe 2 or 3 years ago, that was the bottom of the golf industry.
Hmm.
I have seen a very strong and steady increase in terms of rounds of play, and the number of golfers have
Hmm.
been increasing since then. And I'm quite confident that there will be more and more players on the course, especially during the pandemic. I have never seen so many people are playing golf during the pandemic. I guess because they cannot travel and they have a lot of time to
Yeah.
do.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I remember, I think I read that during SARS, that was a catalyst for the first golf boom in China, was
right.
because,
Yeah,
the doctors suggested people to go outdoors and spend time outdoors instead of staying indoors all the time.
right. Uh, yeah, especially in the mainland China, the Chinese officials, they are not allowed to play golf anymore. So
Hmm.
right now, people are playing golf. They're real golfers.
Right.
Uh, yeah, that's why I'm confident with the industry.
Hmm.
We're going to see more and more real golfers in China.
Right.
I think the only thing we need is more golf courses. That's what we need the most for the moment
Sure.
and the next a few years.
Do you foresee that opening up at all?
Uh, Not anytime soon, I think. We see that change in the golf course. Yeah.
How's your golf game? Have you been playing a lot?
Only a few times during the pandemic, but not as good as I want it to be.
Well, it's never as good as we want it to be.
Yeah, but that's my plan. Play more golf this year.
Good, good.
Hopefully, I will get better.
Well, thank you very much, Jason. Is there anything else you'd like to add?
Yeah, I think one thing I want to add is that in China, it might be surprising to know that the government enforcement agencies have taken counterfeit problem very seriously. So if you have a problem in China, first you have to have confidence you can really solve the problem, and then you find the good agent, the good local lawyer or good investigator, and work with them and work with the government enforcement agency, and very likely you will have a very good results. And besides criminal approach, civil approach is also a good option now. Civil approach means you sue the counterfeiter in court and you get the permanent injunction order and you get monetary damage. And the damages are actually increasing. And in most of the cases, the damages you get from counterfeiters can cover all of the costs you pay for the investigation, for the enforcement, and for the legal action.
Well, that's good to hear. And yeah, definitely when we were there, the Chinese government does take this seriously. Yeah, Jason, thank you very much for spending some time with me here today. Like I said, we get to really have this behind the scenes look at this entire industry that I think touches a lot of golfers, because I'm sure a lot of golfers here, they go on eBay or they might go on Craigslist or maybe AliExpress, and they see some deals on there that are too good to be true. So yeah,
I think that's the most important tip for golfers. If you find a deal too good to be true, very likely, or even 100%, you get a bad deal. So when you buy some stuff, you make sure you buy them from the trusted dealers.
Right. Great. Well, thank you very much, Jason. Yeah, hopefully we'll get to start traveling again, and if you ever come to the Bay Area, let's go play some golf. And when I go back to Asia, let's go play again.
That's fair. That's for sure. That's the deal.
Okay. All right. Thank you very much, Jason.
Thank you very much for having me.
All right. Bye-bye.